Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much, Rizwan Buttar Sahab and the organizers of this summit. And thank you very much all the audience who have perhaps sacrificed their lunchtime to be here. Uh, I've been asked to say something in the beginning of this summit, and I've been going through the summit concept note as well as the vision behind this summit. And I'm very pleased to note that the major theme under which all these discussions will be taking place belong to pharmaceuticals and healthcare ecosystem. That's how it should be, because pharmaceuticals alone are just medical technologies, but healthcare system provides that context within which pharmaceuticals are produced, supplied, used, and their benefits are approved. I see a lot of excitement in terms of the way the industry in Pakistan is developing. The exports have accelerated, as we have just heard. 34% increase in exports is substantial in terms of Pakistan's history of exports in pharmaceuticals. I haven't checked the figures, but I can comfortably say that perhaps this is the highest export ever recorded in Pakistan's history. So that's great. Although we have to bring a context to this also, because once when I realized, and this is when the exports were hovering around $350 million, I came to know that just one industry alone in Sialkot, which was producing surgical instruments, their exports were much larger than the total exports of pharmaceuticals in whole of Pakistan. That was quite a remarkable information, which has never left my mind, at how far we are lagging behind in terms of our exports. But nevertheless, it's a good trend, and definitely a lot of effort must have gone into it, because these things do not happen just on their own. Then I also hear ideas of digital transformation, patient safety, export competitiveness, and how the targets have been set in the short term to enhance exports to 3 billion and then 10 billion by 2030, if I have understood correctly. Very, very high set goals, but not impossible. But a lot of effort has to be put behind it, because if we go by the Pakistan's historical record of exports, then it's quite a tall order, I must say. But we have not achieved in last 78 years. We are now planning to achieve in next couple of years, actually in next 5 years. So my best wishes with this target setting and trying to achieve this. Just to set the context for panel discussions and the themes that I have just narrated to you, I'll begin with some sense of optimism, definitely. and then I will move on to some reality check as well. And then I will again try to conclude on another note of optimism. Because without being optimistic, we cannot move forward. So we have to uh, adopt uh, the optimistic mind, mind frame in which we can expect that we will be achieving what we want to achieve. So first, obviously, uh, the trend that we are seeing in terms of exports and in terms of proliferation of product range as well as use of technology in terms of traceability and in terms of regulatory developments in Pakistan. These are all very optimistic things which one cannot ignore and one should appreciate. I think that two major stakeholders in this whole area of pharmaceuticals, there are many, but if we look at it from macro level, it's government and it's industry. Uh, although the largest stakeholders in this are consumers and people who use these medicines and medical technologies, I will also very briefly and briefly touch upon them. But let's focus on what government is doing and what it should be doing, and how industry is developing and should be also addressing the issues that I will also raise very briefly. So first and foremost, I think the role of the government is to ensure a conducive environment for the industry so that industry can develop and the benefits that it claims that the healthcare system would have can be accrued. Governments always have dual objectives when it comes to industry and industry like pharmaceuticals. The first is that they want to see that the healthcare needs of the people are met. I think as governments, this is first and foremost responsibility of the policymakers, of the political leaders, to ensure that we become as much as self-sufficient as possible to meet the healthcare needs of people. And secondly, they have to also create a conducive environment for the industry, and which means many things. Currently, in order to achieve the first objective, that is larger public good, meeting the healthcare needs of the people, the best thing as far as pharmaceuticals is concerned, the government has to set a right kind of policies. In case of pharmaceuticals, WHO has been promoting the idea of governments developing national medicine policies. And national medicine policies, not only as a product, but as a very credible process behind them, where all the stakeholders are consulted, their inputs are obtained, and policies are developed so that they can serve all stakeholders and create win-win solutions all around. In case of Pakistan, but let me also first share with you one very beautiful saying about policies, public policies, which I have really liked all along in my career. When I first time heard it, I thought that, yes, that's it. That's how public policies should be understood. That's how public policies should be conceived. And that is that policies are developed so that we do not become hostage of the events. Just think about it, that's what policies are about. Policies are developed that we do not become hostage of events. Events can change, governments can change, economic and social conditions can change, global determinants can change, but that should not mean that we become hostage to those events. We should have central focus on the vision and the goals and the objectives of the public policy that one has developed with the inputs of all the stakeholders, and eyes should be set on the ball, as we say. And the second very important WHO's saying about especially national medicine policies is that it is a commitment to goals and it is a guide to action. So you set some goals for yourself and then you put all your actions behind those commitments so that you can achieve those goals. So this prelude is to actually mention that when I was health minister, realizing all this, coming from WHO, one of my earlier priorities was to give Pakistan a good, forward-looking, well-developed national medicines policy. I started that process in 2019, set up a national committee for developing national medicines policy. A lot of deliberation took place on that. A lot of inputs were obtained from all kinds of stakeholders. Some of those stakeholder meetings, as health minister, I myself chaired and attended. A lot of iteration took place for that national medicine policy. That was 2019. Today we are in 2025. That national medicine policy draft, which is very well developed, is still gathering dust on some of the shelves of the Ministry of Health, and it has not seen the light of the day. So that is our commitment to public policies. So when we do not develop policies, we actually become prone to become hostage of events. And that's what we have been seeing. We regulate medicine prices, we deregulate medicine prices, we ban this thing and we ban that thing, and whoever is trying the highest, we listen to them and make changes in the policies. Sometimes even we change our laws. But that's not a cogent, coherent way of dealing with such an important sector called pharmaceuticals in a fifth largest country of the world. So through this forum, my very strong recommendation is to this government to please pick up that draft from somewhere and convene stakeholders once again, because almost 5 years have gone by. Review this and announce this policy, because that policy will only provide you a long-term vision, and you will release yourself from becoming hostage to the events which continue to take place because of the political instability and the economic instability in Pakistan. Obviously, any policy cannot make everybody very happy, but it is a well-negotiated document in which everybody has something to gain. So I think that's very important that we talk about the need for national medicines policy in Pakistan if we are to achieve all those goals of export, and not just exports, also about reliable availability of essential medicines for the people in this country, first and foremost, but also seeing the development of the industry. I think the time has also come that Pakistan should also, and I'm moving on to another very important issue, because pharmaceuticals, in this sector, pharmacists play a very important role. But we are not utilizing uh, the growing number of pharmacists in Pakistan, which are being produced at a larger number, because there are so many universities now having departments of pharmacy, and a lot more number of pharmacists are coming out of these universities. And yet, we do not have a generic substitution law in Pakistan. And I think that pharmacists only can actually provide generic substitution to the consumers in the retail pharmacies. And that also requires a lot of technological input, but it is very important that we also know. Why I mention this? Because medicines are expensive and people's affordability does not match generally with what they can buy out of their shadow pockets in Pakistan. And this is very, very important because we are talking about healthcare needs of the people. So I think that generic substitution, which pharmacists can do, is a need of the hour. And this will also help promotion of the industry of generic producers in the country. Now, as far as industry is concerned, I think that industry also has to take a larger view of the healthcare conditions in Pakistan. You often see that number of essential medicines remain unavailable in the market. Industry says that we do not have enough incentives to produce them. But at the same time, now that medicine prices have been deregulated, I think industry does not have that excuse anymore. And industry must be investing in good quality generics. And they need to also identify the strategic needs of the country as far as the medical technology, pharmaceuticals, medical devices, biologicals, vaccine production in Pakistan is concerned. We learned the hard way during the COVID that Pakistan was not producing any vaccine. Pakistan was hardly producing even the masks. Pakistan was not producing any ventilators. Pakistan was not producing hardly any biologicals in the country. A fifth largest country, fifth largest population in the world, and we are dependent on imports for all these essential commodities that I have just mentioned to you. So it is one thing to say that we are increasing our exports and industry is developing. It is very important at the same time for industry to have a very strong public health view about our national healthcare needs. For example, after mRNA technology and the efficiency that it has brought for the manufacturing of biologicals and vaccines, I think the industry really need to invest in this area. And government also need to facilitate and make easier for the investors to produce these biologicals and vaccines. Two other very important issues which industry need to pay a lot of attention, and even if I want to, I cannot ignore them. And some of you coming from industry may not like this, but industry really have to do some very serious introspection in terms of the unethical behavior in terms of medicinal drug promotion in Pakistan. The way the prescribers are incentivized through ethical and unethical means is a very tragic story in Pakistan. And this has a direct implication to one of your themes, which is patient safety. When medicines are prescribed unethically, unneeded, consumers have to use them and just have to suffer their side effects. Not only side effects, but also they end up spending a lot of their hard-earned monies on those products. I know industry doesn't like this kind of arguments, but for somebody like me who has seen the health sector in Pakistan from above, I know that how people sometimes end up buying healthcare and buying pharmaceuticals by sometimes taking loans, selling their things, out-of-pocket expenditures, which are very high in Pakistan. These are those issues that if you ignore them, then you are ignoring some elephant in the room. And as a result of this, there is so much irrational use of medicines in the country. And people suffer the consequences both through their health as well as through their pockets. I want to end all this again on an optimistic note. These few things that I just mentioned was a reality check. We should not ignore these things if we are really serious and sincere about pharmaceutical sector development in Pakistan. The optimistic note that I see is the new generation in all different sectors of the healthcare in Pakistan. New leaders are taking their positions, whether it is Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan, whether it is pharmaceutical industry, and whether it is even policymakers. And one has to attach a lot of hope with the new generation of leaders. I already see a lot of developments which are taking place in Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan. I see initiatives taken by innovators like Islamabad and other such initiatives which are feeding into the improvement of the health sector at large. And I also see here and there examples of young leaders in the pharmaceutical industry as well. Let me end by saying that this last point I made, that the leadership in the industry is critical for the development of the pharmaceutical industry in Pakistan. And we have to learn so much just from across the border, from people like Yusuf Hamid. I don't know if how many people even if you have heard the name. He was the founding director, owner actually, of SIPCA, who learned the art of combining the public health needs with meeting the commercial objectives of the pharmaceutical industry. When he saw an opportunity of producing generics of antiretroviral medicines, he changed the whole scenario globally. And really, India became the pharmacy of the African continent. And they reduced the prices of antiretroviral medicines 100-fold, literally 100-fold. And they were able to serve so many people, but in that process also, the industry also became a billionaire industry. That is the kind of leadership that we are looking for. Leaders in industry identifying really strategic healthcare needs and then matching up their industrial initiatives to produce those medicines and making them available at a scale, not only in Pakistan but also in exporting markets. And there are a number of such opportunities. The 60% more burden of disease in low and middle income countries today is made up of non-communicable diseases, and non-communicable diseases by definition are chronic diseases. Chronic diseases meaning that patients have to use those medicines for the rest of their lives. Imagine the market size because of the non-communicable diseases. And there are so many opportunities there. Even in Pakistan, there are 34.5 million people living with type 2 diabetes alone. These are those areas where one has to identify and match public health needs with industrial development. Sorry if something you didn't like, but मेरा तो काम है बताना. One of which is antimicrobial resistance, and countries like Pakistan with such huge populations and such unregulated selling of medicines, buying of medicines, prescribing of medicines. We are a I think stereotype context in Pakistan where antimicrobial resistance can automatically take place. And the data that, for example, AKU has produced on antimicrobial resistance is not just that more and more bacteria are becoming resistant to the existing antibiotics, but also it is growing very fast. And those infections that we knew that can easily be treatable with common antibiotics are no more treatable. So it is definitely a huge public health issue, and I think that government, if I have to do this, I will have a special legislation on the use and selling of antibiotics in the country, and there should be clinical audits by the government of prescribers, that how, why and which antibiotics are being prescribed, without which we are doomed in coming time. And last but not the least, from research and development perspective, the pipeline for development of new antibiotics is also very dry, because and that's very interesting also, because the pharmaceutical industry do not see much incentive in developing new antibiotics, because antibiotics once produced, they become resistant very fast. So the time available for its marketing and making return on investment is very short. So why somebody would spend billions of dollars when they know that their product will become resistant and nobody is going to prescribe anymore? So it is a very compound problem which has to be seen from different dimensions, and remedial actions have to be taken place at policy level as well as at the practice level.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर, डॉक्टर उमैर है। मेरा आपसे सर एक सवाल भी और एक छोटा सा गिला भी है। मॉलिक्यूल इंडस्ट्री कभी भी नहीं बनाएगी जब तक उसको जो है वो कोई इसकी पायलट टेस्टिंग नहीं मिलती। तो इस हवाले से सर आपकी राय का भी इजहार चाहिए, और अभी गवर्नमेंट को क्या करना चाहिए, और अगर इन केस अल्लाह करे आपको दोबारा मौका मिलता है तो क्या आप ये प्लेज करते हैं कि इसको आप इम्प्लीमेंट करवाएंगे?
नहीं, आपने जो सारी बात आपकी जो है वो बड़ी सेल्फ एक्सप्लेनेटरी, but eventually Higher Education Commission some time ago made it mandatory for all the universities to establish their क्या कहते हैं जिसको, Office of Research, Innovation and Commercialization, if I'm right. वो ऑफिस भी बन गए हैं, लेकिन उनके अंदर भी कुछ हो नहीं रहा। फंडिंग का भी इशू है, इंसेंटिव्स का इशू है, पेटेंट प्रोटेक्शन का इशू। सबसे बड़ा इंसेंटिव जो है इनोवेटर्स के लिए, इनोवेशन बगैर इंसेंटिव के लिए होती है। और अगर आप माशाल्लाह बड़े पढ़े लिखे आदमी लगते हैं, अमेरिकन इंडस्ट्री बूम जो आया था रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट के हवाले से, वो तब आया था जब उन्होंने 84 में गालबन बोर्ड ऑयल एक लेजिस्लेशन की थी जिसमें कि इंडिविजुअल इनोवेटर्स विल आल्सो बी रिवॉर्डेड फॉर देयर रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट। तो इट रियली थ्राइव्ड इन यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका। तो हम इन चीज़ों के ऊपर ज़्यादा तवज्जो नहीं देते, और अगर कोई तवज्जो थोड़ी एक विंडो ऑफ अटेंशन आती भी है تو ہماری پالیسی انکنسسٹنسی بہت ہے اور پالیسی کنٹینیوٹی نہیں ہے بیکاز آف پولیٹیکل انسٹیبلٹی بیسیکلی. تو ایک گورنمنٹ آتی ہے وہ کچھ کرتی ہے, پھر وہ اگلی گورنمنٹ آتی ہے, وہ اپنا فرض سمجھتی ہے کہ جو پچھلوں نے کیا ہے چاہے اچھا کیا ہے ہم نے اس کو آگے لے کے نہیں جانا, ہم ایک نئے سرے سے اپنی دنیا آپ قائم کریں گے. وہ دنیا قائم کر رہے ہوتے ہیں تو وہ دنیا تباہ ہو جاتی ہے, تو پھر وہ ہم پھر شروع سے شروع کرتے ہیں. تو بہت سارے اس طرح کے سوالوں کا جواب جو ہے نا وہ لارجر کوشچنس میں ہے پاکستان کی پولیٹیکل اکانومی کے اندر, فرینکلی اسپیکنگ, ناٹ جسٹ اکانومی, پولیٹیکل اکانومی. لیکن اگر اس کی آپٹمسٹک سائڈ دیکھیں تو یہ اور ایک بھی 10 سال پہلے نہیں تھی, آج ہیں. بہت ساری چیزیں ایسی ہیں کہ جن کے اندر ایسے اپرچونیٹیز پاکستان کے اندر اوپن ہو رہے ہیں کہ اگر پرسنل لیڈرشپ شو کی جائے تو پھر بھی بہت کچھ کیا جا سکتا. اگر آپ اس انتظار میں بیٹھے رہیں گے کہ گورنمنٹ جب آپ کو انسینٹیوائز کرے گی, لا بنائے گی, آپ کو شاباش دے گی, آپ جو کچھ کر رہے ہیں تو تبھی یہ چیزیں آگے چلے گی, تو ایسا نہیں ہو. آپ کو پرسنل لیڈرشپ شو کرنی پڑے گی. اور پاکستان میں بے شمار ایسی مثالیں ہیں کہ جس میں جب لوگوں نے انیشیٹوز لیے ہیں تو دے ہیو آلسو سکسیڈیڈ. فیلئر ریٹ از ہائی, فیلئر ریٹ ان انوویشن از آلویز ویری ہائی, but there is also on the margins there is also success rate. بہت ساری مثالیں آپ کو دی جا سکتی ہیں. تو اس لیے پرو ایکٹیو ایٹیچیوڈ اپنانے کی ضرورت ہے in current Pakistan. You can't wait for the government to put its house in order. Okay.